quick tangent. So for example, in the WikiLeaks, I didn't want to talk about this, but in the WikiLeaks, so the sentence says, technical problems associated with transmitting data, right? So the guy, I forget his name, some private goes in there, he puts a disk in and he burns intelligence information, uploads it to WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks then, disseminates this information to the world. Most of the stuff, it's incriminating, seemingly incriminating stuff. The most incriminating of all the things that I've seen so far is and this is stuff that's already out there, people know this, there's a YouTube video, and it's called collateral murder, right? Instead of collateral damage, it's called collateral murder. So the collateral murder video is put up on YouTube, which you can watch. You gotta love a government that allows you to watch its classified documents. It's been forcefully declassified, but it's forcefully declassified documents. It's good to live in a country that allows that. But so you can watch the collateral murder video. I watched the collateral murder video, and from an academic standpoint, I was very, very upset personally in the way that the video is displayed, because the video is titled collateral murder, right? We don't know what the events are on the ground, so immediately there's bias. So my interpretation of the video prior to even watching the video is already biased because the title of the video is collateral murder. So effectively, I cannot watch the video unbiased, which I should be able to watch the video unbiased. So then you watch the video, right? And cameraman is aiming a camera at the chopper, and the chopper starts lighting them up. And you think, oh well, he thought it was an RPG or not. They start debating, and then people are fleeing, and the fighter pilot starts, shooting everybody on the ground, and ambulance and medics come, and he starts shooting the medics, and we're quick to make assessments, right? And I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying that the action was right. What I'm saying is it was inappropriate to release this information, if you're WikiLeaks, right, to release the information under the assumption that the information is going to be presented for you to make your own assessment. If you do that and you say it's collateral murder, right, if you title it collateral murder, you've already defamed, you've already sort of undermined any objective ability to interpret that information. And it really should be up to those who have power, not John and Joe John Doe and Jane Doe, in America, not me even. Should be intel folk, and maybe people on the ground that were affected, to make an assessment of the situation. So I mean, I didn't want to go off on a tangent, but yeah, what ends up happening, as we'll see, to maintain challenges because of the technical problems associated with transmitting data and the need to maintain security, as is obviously the case in the WikiLeaks stuff, right? Of information acquired by highly sensitive sources. Some argue that intelligence officials have tended to err on the side of maintaining the security of information, even at the cost of not sharing the essential data with those who need to know, other departments, other members of the intel community. Section 1015 of the Intelligence Reform Act mandated the establishment of an intelligence sharing environment, ISC, to facilitate terrorism-related information, right? So we can see the WikiLeaks problem isn't some incidental problem. The WikiLeaks problem strikes at the absolute heart of national intelligence, especially if it's the case that, a private can go in and download, innumerable documents and jump it on a drive and take it off and just upload it, right? We would hope that the intelligence was being protected more than that, but we saw that it wasn't. I'm sure they've stepped it up. Why did I bring that up, right? Why is that of any relevance? Well, what I've done is I've amended the initial image that I drew before, and this amended version, I'm not going to draw any of this on the board because it would just take too much time, and I have it all here. So if you don't have it, download the document. Look on this page, and you'll see the image. Remember, we talked about local law enforcement at a local level, and state, I think it was state, local, territorial, state, local, tribal, territorial, I think that's what it stood for, the interaction between local authorities, right? We see that information is collected and disseminated upward in this chain, and it goes to what I've classified as regional clearinghouses, and I've already done videos on this. The Joint Terrorism Task Force, the JTTF, who is responsible for conducting investigations, and the Department for Homeland Security's 72 fusion centers, and they're analyzing, assessing information. But what this says, right, what this says in the first, and this was written in March 3rd, is the INTs have been the pillars of the intelligence community's organizational structure, but analysis of the threats require that data from all of the INTs be brought together, right? That it be brought together. So this is just me throwing my 2 cents out there. It seems as though, like we have what I've labeled regional clearinghouses for information and investigation, there should be one, not 2, but one federal, I don't know if it's going to be a branch or an office or whatever, and this is sort of conceptually what I think needs to follow from reading the reports, from preparing for the essays, from seeing what was written a month ago, right? That there should be some level of federal clearinghouse, right? There should be some new organization or database in which, if the policymakers themselves are saying we need this, and this is the structure in which all of this resides, and here's the intelligence community, and I've listed all the intelligence community, then all of the intelligence community's data, coupled with all of the local, the pertinent, not just all of the local, I mean, we don't need arrest records for, meth dealers, right? That's not relevant to terrorism, if we're talking about specifically terrorism. But specifically terrorism related, well, all the relevant local information is funneled up. That information is transformed into intel. That intel is shared with the JTTF. Then that intel is disseminated horizontally between the federal government and all the various branches of the intelligence community, from which I've listed. And then there should, my argument is, be a repository at the federal level of the most classified, the most pertinent, the most, the most immediate, urgent intel, and then it trickles down very, very selectively, very, very slowly to, like, the chiefs of command and their respective regional levels, right? And then that is diluted even further down to locals, so that the further down you go in the chain is the less information that any individual has. The further up you go in the chain is the more information that individuals have. But if it's structured hierarchically, you are commanded to do X. You don't need to know why you were commanded to do X. We know why you were commanded to do X. And you do X. Right? And X is going to facilitate some particular goal. But this repository, from my understanding, is what's being said that's needed. There needs to be, and I'm going to quote it again, the INTs have the pillars of the intelligence community's organizational structure, but analysis of the threat requires that data from all the INTs be brought together and that analysts have ready access to all sources of data. And that's as clear as it gets, right? To me, I interpret that as meaning there needs to be a federal clearinghouse, and not like the regional clearinghouses where there's at least 2, and I talked about one in LA, where there's several, probably regional clearinghouses. There needs to be one massive, phenomenally encrypted, probably. I'm not going to get into the practical aspects of encrypting at that level. Clearinghouse where all that information is assessed, and obviously, only the commander-in-chief and very, very select heads of intel community branches and agencies are able to access that information. And then, commands are given based on divulging specific parts of the intelligence, right? You can get an act, and I'll talk about this in another video, but the way that intelligence should always be structured is that knowledge is localized at the top, and other people, subordinates, get directives and orders that will facilitate the goals of the information at the top. But it can't just be top down, because then it gets power heavy at the top. The good thing about the system that I've already showed you is that the collection of information and the assessment begins really at the bottom, so that there's always going to be a check between the guy on the ground. Right? You'll be like, yeah, you thought that was good, but hey, we tried it, and I don't know what it is that you guys have in mind, but here's what happened, and I don't think what you think you're doing is right because of X, Y, Z, and you make adjustments at the top. So for me, I think that the people who have power need to start thinking on this level. I think it's, from what I'm reading, and I'm an analyst in a different sense. From what I'm reading, this is what's missing, right? If you are part of the intelligence community, or you just want to chat leave a comment and tell me what you think about this level, if you think my assessment's right. And again, I'm a teacher, but I'm also a student, so I would like to hear people who have more understanding of this. But I think this is what we need now, and whatever precautions or whatever policies we need to implement in order to get that into existence, I think it would, I'm almost positive, it would help the community structurally. It would serve as a unified, singular, central, federal level information clearinghouse, which can't be a bad thing. To my assessment, it doesn't exist now, and this was a month ago, and now I'm doing my lecture, so I'm doing my part. So with that, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my videos. I will continue this assessment of national security with section 3 of the analysis. Until then, I'm Dr. Jason J. Campbell. Thanks for watching my videos. Goodbye.